إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In our previous khutbah, we mentioned one of the ways, the most important way, the way by which we can guarantee to have a goodly life in this world. And that is as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He described, وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ مِنْ ذَكَرٍ أَوْ أُنْثَى وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. Whosoever does good deeds, whether he is a male or female, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِنٌ, and that individual, they do these good deeds, being in a state of Imaan, having belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, believing in Allah and believing in those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He commands us to believe in. Whosoever does that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He says, فَلَنُحْيِيَنَّهُ حَيَاةً طَيِّبَةً. We are going to give them a goodly life. A goodly life, a life of tranquility, a life of peace, a life of contentment. As the scholars, they describe hayatan tayyibah. In this verse we mention that the most, or from amongst the main way that we can gain this goodly life is we have to fix our iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He promised that goodly life with these two conditions, doing good deeds and having iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we like to continue on that path with another verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He guides us towards the way by which we may gain something that is needed in order for us to have a goodly life in this dunya. And that is the barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no way we can have a goodly life in this world. There is no way we can live in tranquility. We can live in peace. And we can live with happiness unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He blessed us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He says, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He says, had the people of the village, those villages that were destroyed before, وَلَوْ أَنَّ أَهْلَ الْقُرَىٰ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا, had they had iman, had they believed, وَاتَّقَوْا, and they had taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لَفَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَرَكَاتٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. We would have poured upon them, opened up upon them the blessings of the heavens and the earth. But before we continue, what is this barakat? What are these blessings? What is the meaning of being blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This thing that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every time almost we make the witr prayer. During the month of Ramadan, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَبَارِكْ لَنَا فِيمَا أَعْطَيْتَ, وَبَارِكْ لَنَا, and bless us, give us barakah in that which you have given us. Know that we are asking Allah to give us barakah in that which He has given us. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given us many things. But without this barakah in that which He has given us, we will not enjoy that which He has given us. The barakah, as the scholars of Lugha, of the Arabic language, they describe and explain, it refers to thubut al-khayr wa kathratul khayr. Having good in that which you have been giving, and receiving a lot of good from that which you have been giving. You may be given many things. Many people we see, they are giving wealth. They have been giving homes. They have been giving children. They have been giving means of transportation. They have cars and trucks and so on. But many of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given them barakah in these things that they were giving. So you find that these very same things that seems to be beautiful on the outside, it's a means of misery for them. Their wealth and their family and their children and their home, they are not finding any happiness. Why is it that they are not finding any happiness in these things? Because they have not been blessed in them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not blessed them with these things. And as we see, this is needed for us to have that goodly life. So let's go back to the verse. What are the conditions for us to guarantee from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He is going to bless us in that which He has given us? And as we know, it's not just sufficient for us to make dua for anything. In this deen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has taught us. And this is His sunnah, His way in this world. Anything we want, we make dua for it. We rely on Allah for it. But we also have to work. We want wealth, we ask Allah and we work. We want children, we ask Allah and we get married. And so on. We want education, we want a high degree, we ask Allah, we make dua. And we work and we study for it. And similarly with regards to spiritual things, things of the hereafter, if we want them, we can't just ask for it and throw back, we have to work for it. So what is it that we need to do in order to gain this barakah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned it in that verse. Amanu wattaqaw. Believing in Allah, having iman and having taqwa. Fixing our iman and fixing our taqwa with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the salaf, the companions and the tabi'een and the atba' tabi'een, those early generation that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he praised. They understand this very well. You find that this was their focus. And when they see things not going right with their riding animal or with their children or with their spouses, they say they will review. The first thing they will do is review themselves to see if there is something wrong that they are not doing. Rather, even in the battlefield, if they are finding difficulty when they are facing the enemy, they will see what is it that they may be doing. What sunnah maybe they are leaving out. Something that they are doing that is causing them not to be blessed in that which they are doing. Amanu wattaqaw, if they had believed and had taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In order for us to receive this barakah, to have this goodly life, we need these two things. We need to work on our iman and we need to work on our taqwa. And in this khutbah today, insha'Allah ta'ala, we will focus on one aspect of iman. As there are many aspects of iman and also many aspects of the taqwa of Allah. And the taqwa of Allah, in summary, as we mentioned many times, is fulfilling His obligations and staying away from His prohibition. We will mention one aspect of Iman, and that is the Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the second khutbah, أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. As we mentioned, the key to gaining a goodly life and the key to gaining the barakah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lies with our Iman, lies with our faith, our belief, and having taqwa in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing good deeds, fulfilling our obligations towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the only way, and there are no other way by which you can guarantee these things from Allah. And don't be deceived by what you see apparent of the life of the disbelievers, for you don't know what is the state of their heart and what they are going through behind closed doors. And even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may reward them for their good deeds in this world, know that they are guaranteed nothing of the hereafter. As we mentioned, inshallah, in the second khutbah, we would like to focus on one aspect of our Iman, and that is our Iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned that our belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it necessitates that we fulfill the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the first right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that we worship Him alone, and we do not associate any partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He emphasized this in many places of the Quran. The greatest sin that mankind can ever commit, the only sin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive on the day of judgment, that day when we will meet Him, is associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ أَن يُشْرَكَ بِهِ وَيَغْفِرُ مَا دُونَ ذَلِكَ لِمَن يَشَاءُ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not forgive that partners be associated with Him, but He forgive other than that to whomsoever He wish. And this thing of associating partners with Allah and establishing worship truly and only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is deeper than many of us think. That once we say we believe in Allah and we testify that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah and that Muhammad is His messenger and servant, we are saved from this. But that is beyond reality. As the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned that the thing that he feared most upon us, inna akhwaf ma akhafu alaykum ash-shirk al-asghar. The thing he feared most upon us, even more than the Masih ad-Dajjal, which is the greatest trial that mankind will face in this dunya until the day of judgment, the thing he feared most upon us is the minor shirk, is the hidden shirk. And we will not speak about that today, but rather we're going to speak about some apparent shirk that many Muslims unfortunately are falling into, directly worshipping others besides Allah. Many Muslims, you find them, they're going by their graves, either the graves of righteous people and saints as they claim, or even the grave of who they claim to be prophets and messengers of Allah. They go to these graves and they call upon them and they ask of them, asking for their needs. Many Muslims, when they pray, even in their salah, they are standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they are asking other than Allah in their salah. They are asking this prophet and this messenger, and calling upon this prophet and this messenger. And these are the greatest people to walk the face of the earth, the most beloved individual to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they have no right of divinity, no right for us to call upon them besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And indeed the places of worship, they belongs to Allah. So do not call upon anyone besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not call upon anyone along with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask yourself, is that which you are calling, that which you are making your supplication and your dua to, is it Allah or is it other than Allah? If other than Allah is included in that supplication, whether you call them alone or you call them with Allah, you are falling into this major sin of associating partners with Allah, and you risk spending your entire afterlife in the fire of Jahannam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, ادعوا ربكم تضرعا وخفية إنه لا يحب المعتدين. Call upon your Lord, beseeching Him. Call upon your Lord, beseeching Him. Indeed, He does not love those who transgress. Who are the transgressors? The transgressors are those who call upon other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَلَا تَدْعُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَنْفَعُكَ وَلَا يَضُرُّكَ فَإِنْ فَعَلْتَ فَإِنَّكَ إِذًا مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. And do not call upon other than Allah, those who will not benefit you and those who will not harm you. And this is a description for everyone besides Allah. It's not a condition, rather it's a description. Do not call upon others besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who will not benefit you and those who will not harm you. فَإِنْ فَعَلْتَ فَإِنَّكَ إِذًا مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. If you do so, you are indeed from amongst the oppressors. You are indeed from amongst those who come with dhulm. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّ الشِّرْكَ لَظُلْمٌ عَظِيمٌ. Indeed, shirk, associating partners with Allah, is a great oppression. وقال الله تعالى ومن أضل ممن يدعو من دون الله من لا يستجيب له إلى يوم القيامة وهم عن دعائهم غافلون. And who is more astray than the one who call upon besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those that will not listen to them, those who will not answer their call until the day of judgment. Those that you are calling upon besides Allah, they will not answer your call until the day of judgment. وَهُمْ عَنْ دُعَائِهِمْ غَافِلُونَ. Rather, they are negligent about your call. You are calling upon this prophet and this individual, this righteous person. You are calling upon them and mentioning their name. وَهُمْ عَنْ دُعَائِهِمْ غَافِلُونَ. And they are negligent about your supplication. They have no idea that you are even calling upon them. They have no idea even of your existence. And you are calling upon them besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how is it you are going to be guided as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, there is no one that is more astray than this individual. And worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not only include calling upon Him. Rather, worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala includes everything that is a right to Allah. Everything that we must dedicate only and directly to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Such as tawakkul, reliance in Allah, and khawf and fear that is only should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and love that is only should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshaAllah ta'ala we are going to mention these things and give some enlightenment on these things in following khutab, in following sermons, insha'Allah ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid us upon worshipping Him alone. And we seek refuge in Allah from associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Minor and major form of associating partners with Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among those who care about their Iman and those who work towards strengthening their Iman and strengthening their taqwa with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we seek refuge in Allah from being among the negligent, those who don't care about the hereafter, those who don't care about their relationship with Him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the good of this world and the good of the hereafter, and to save us from the punishment of the fire of hell. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to aid us and all the believing men and women around the world, to aid them against those who are oppressing them, to grant them victory over those who are oppressing them, those who are expelling them from their land, those who are subduing them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them that what they deserve and to reward the believers for their patience. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وسلم وأقيموا الصلاة.